Hey guys, this is going to be my third web tutorial, and today we're going to be learning one of the most important things you can learn about HTML. So let's get straight into it. What we're going to learn about is three different types of styling. And there's internal styling, there's inline styling, and there's external styling. So I've set up a couple examples for us to go through. This is internal styling, what I have right up here. Let me just remove the note marks. Okay, here we go. Right here, we have a p tag that says hello world. But I don't like this hello world. I want this hello world to have the color red. So how do I do it? I do this by internal styling. This right here are two style tags. And what two style tags, they basically, the style tags are almost like, you can think of it as a little CSS within your HTML. And everything I define within this area, it's almost like I'm using CSS. Pretty simple, right? So let's say I grab my P element, and oh yeah, one more thing I should go over. What I did right here was that I selected my P element with this within the style tags, because this is internal styling, and I have my open curly brackets and my closed curly brackets, which means everything that I put within here is applying as my styling. So I'll say color red. It's that simple, and all of a sudden, look at that, my P element turns red. It is hello world in red. So what we can see here is that styling, the style tag right here, this style tag opens up an area where I can do my CSS styling. And it's like, this is called internal styling because you are having, within your HTML file itself, you are having CSS styling applied. And yeah, that's what it is. So let's start with inline styling. Let's do some inline styling. So what is inline styling? Inline styling is defining your style within the tag itself. So within this tag, I have defined my style as font family Arial. So whatever shows up on this screen as the P element is in the font family of Arial. Let's make something more distinct. How about impact? There we go. It's an impact font family. That's what it's using. So what we can see from here is that you're defining it within the tag. This, although not always recommended, especially if you can apply external CSS styling, you can do this. But then again, think about how much you're going to be typing. You're going to be typing in a lot. I mean, I don't know about you, but I want to be as lazy as possible. I want to have that internal styling or external styling preferably, rather than having to define it within every tag, you know? Yeah. So let's go into the most important of the three stylings, and that is external filing, also known as CSS. So what is CSS? I think I went over this a little bit last time, but I'll just recap. CSS is cascading style sheets, and this is where you'll be selecting your elements and styling them. So in our HTML, we have a P. Let's just get rid of all this right here. All this. And let's just simply have our paragraph say hello world. And let's go within our CSS, grab our P element right here, and say color red. There we go, it pops up right here. Now I know a question that a lot of you guys are asking: how do I link this HTML file to this cascading style sheet file? So, now, here comes in the link tag. The link tag comes into play, and you're going to need this if you ever want to define an external CSS style sheet. You're going to need this link. So there's three components of this link. First is the reliance function, which says, hey, this is going to be a style sheet. And the type, which specifies the text that I'm using is CSS, and the href, which says, hey, this is the exact name of the file I'm grabbing. This is crucial. This part right here is crucial. You must say what you're grabbing. You're grabbing this file right here, hello.css. So, it's standard this is standard practice for having your HTML link up to your CSS. It's just something you gotta memorize, honestly. It's a link tag. It's self-closing, which we went over with the image tag. And, yeah, so it linked to CSS. What else can we do? Yes, now I have to get to the main point of my video. The main point of my video is to talk about how to define classes, right? How do we define classes? So this is my P element right here. I'm gonna say class attribute, and I'm gonna say equals hello. Now if I go into my CSS and I say dot hello, and I have my open curly bracket and my closing curly bracket as always, I can define styling that affects my P class. There we go. If I say color red, there we go. The text is in red, and that's because I've defined this class as hello. I've defined the class within the CSS, and it's running this function right here. This whatever I've declared within these curly brackets. So this right here, this right here is called a class. Hello is my class. You can have your class name whatever you want. I can say random even. It doesn't have to be specific. And as long as I change this up and I say .random, the styling will apply. Okay? So yeah, that's something that's going to take a little bit getting used to. That's called defining a class. Classes are more general. Classes are for maybe even defining groups of things. More elements, more tags. But if you wanted to define something specific, or you wanted to open up a div, which is something we haven't gone into yet, but there will be times where you'd want to define an ID. And so it's important to know what it is, obviously. Let's say we have an h1 class. No, not class, ID. Sorry, my bad. ID equals hello. And we close that, and that's our h1 right here, and then we say hello universe. So what I've done right here is that I've defined this ID as hello, and if I go into my CSS, in order to define an ID, I use the hashtag symbol, and I have open curly bracket, close curly bracket, and right here, my ID was called hello. So this has to be called hello. And there we go. Everything I define within here applies my styling. So let's say that I want my hello universe to be slightly bigger than that. Let's say font size 300 pixels. Whoa, that is big. That is really big, right? Which brings another thing into play. Everything I'm doing within this file right here, all the CSS, that stuff you gotta learn. You might have already learned this, you might have seen other tutorials or had somebody help you or have a book or some sort of resource where you can learn a lot of these styles. But again, just like when you're learning a bunch of tags in HTML, you're gonna be learning a lot of functions in CSS. You're gonna be learning a lot of classes, IDs, grabbing elements. You're going to be grabbing a lot of elements. You're going to say, okay, hey, I want this P element in particular, and I'm not going to use a class. And you basically have to be able to select different elements within big lists. And what I'm going to say is that learning CSS is crucial for your styling, and it's something you definitely want to learn. It will take some time to get adjusted to it, and don't just expect that it'll come automatically. Of course, you'll learn the first couple of things like font size, color red, but it goes into more detail. There's things like rotating, shapes. That's all for later. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I hope you learned something out of this. We covered 3 different types of styling. Again, we covered internal, external, inline styling. And yeah.